Welcome back, everybody. This is Mark 170 of Geeks Chasing Squirrels Across the Multiverse. My name is Greg. I am the Bat Daddy 52. And Sarah, I have one question for you. Are you going to see Cocaine Bear?
No,
No. Okay.
no,
We're going to talk about it
no.
tonight. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit, I'm sure. It'll come up in conversation. But we have a lot of things to talk about tonight. Really continuations of just shows. I said to kind of bring it up as a big show, but it's really just kind of continuation of things we watched. Last week was a really big show with some premieres and a movie coming out. Next week we have a guest. So I mean, this is kind of a lull week, I guess, but it's still gonna
We
be
can gush
fun.
over
So,
things that we're loving right now.
oh yeah, I hear you. I hear you. It's been a very good day, so it should be a really nice show. Got a new member of the family, Jasmine, but she's not in here right now because the girls are going crazy over the new puppy. So,
Yeah,
but I'm
she's
sure she'll make her
absolutely
podcast
adorable.
appearance. Yeah, I'm sure she'll make her podcast appearance before long. So,
Yeah,
okay, you're not gonna go. Go ahead.
Bruce is laid. Like I said, Bruce is laid out in the living room, so he may or may not make an appearance. I don't know. That's the white one, so I don't know. I
This
got the
show
other one
has a
off.
lot of This show has a lot of
Yep.
mascots. Yeah,
Yes,
a lot
we
of
are
mascots.
dog friendly, hundred
Yeah,
percent,
you can
hundred
see
percent.
Lucy in the background right here behind me. Oh, that side right there. Yeah, there she is, just chilling in the recliner. What's up, Lucy? All right. So you're not gonna go see Cocaine Bear? It's Ray
No,
Liotta's last film.
I know, but that is just not. Look, zombies and just wild, crazy shit like that is just not my bag.
Well, it's based on a true story. I mean, and
And that's
I've
what's so
well,
profound.
it's
It's
funny.
like,
It's based
can
on a
we
true story, but it's insanely exaggerated for this this
exaggerate it? Yeah.
this movie. Like it did happen. Like the cocaine fell, the bear got the cocaine, but I'm almost positive almost everything in this movie is just for the movie. Beyond that, there's not really much of a story. The bear is actually in Kentucky in a mall for I think it's called the Kentucky Mall or something like that
Oh
in
Lord.
Kentucky, and the bear is actually there. There's a display of them, but I don't believe most of the stuff about this movie is factual beyond the fact that there was a cocaine drop and a bear did find it and consume all the cocaine. So,
I don't know. I don't think I'm the demographic that this movie is catered towards.
well, Elizabeth Banks is that her name? I think she's the one who directed this movie.
I don't know. Like I said, it's like I've seen, the
Thanks. Let me check it out.
of course, my husband and my son are like, "Oh, I want to see it." I'm like, "You two go right ahead, knock yourselves out. You can tell me all about it afterwards."
Well, this is one of those rare movies that is actually getting great reviews from the audiences and great reviews from the
Well,
critics.
it's probably gonna be wild. It's probably like one of those movies where it's just absolutely insane, just crazy, just a wild it's like a wildly good time, that kind of thing. But I
Hmm.
don't I don't know. It's just kind of a little too wild.
I mean, I don't think it's something that I'm gonna go see in theaters unless there's just not really much to do that day. I have some free time, which is very, very rare, and I can go check it out. But I don't know. It's something that I do want to see.
Now, I'm not saying I probably wouldn't see it if it came, once it was like released on streaming or something like that, because it
Right.
probably that looks like something that you might watch, like maybe on like a Saturday night or something where you like don't really have anything else to do, and just like, yeah, just do a movie night. Let's just watch something wild, and I'll probably end up enjoying it. But I just don't foresee me seeing it in the theater.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's probably not for me either in the theaters. Honestly, man, I just have not gone to the theaters much lately. I really would love to. I just can't find the time. I can't find the time or the money or anything else. It's just, all right, I'll see when it comes out, when I can stream it. Because now it comes out like a month later on streaming or
Yeah,
2 months later on streaming. Before, you remember when movies would come out, you would have to wait like 6 months for them to come out on video or DVD in the stores or
or come out on
to be
Netflix
able to rent
where you
them.
can like get it in the mail.
Oh, I'm going before Netflix. I'm going back to Blockbuster days, you know?
Dude, oh my God, how mad were you where like on a Friday night you would go to the Blockbuster, you're like, "Oh, okay, I want to see like the newer," and not a damn one was in there. You
All of them are
see the
sold out.
box and you go behind it. Oh,
All of them are sold out. Yep.
yeah.
I remember that. It was like that with games too. Yeah. There is actually one last Blockbuster left. Of all the franchises, there is one left. And they had a commercial on the Super Bowl, I believe. And they've
Uh-huh.
been booming in business since then. I don't believe they do a lot of movie sales as far as rentals go, but they sell merchandise mostly. And
Well,
they
I mean,
have been
honestly, I
absolutely
can't really
booming.
like I said, I mean, I mean, I'm like Netflix, get it in the mail old, but then I'm also Columbia House old too.
Oh yeah, I remember Columbia House. I definitely remember Columbia House.
But
I'm right
cassette
there with
tape,
you. You're only a
tape,
few years
Columbia
older, a
House.
couple years older than me. Like we would have gone to high school together. So
No, 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 no.
no, very
Mm-mm.
close, very close. Anyway,
Yeah,
we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I go way back in those days too. Like I remember we were talking about this the other day on the guys of the C3 podcast about video gaming systems all the way going back. And I remember
mhm.
Atari and Nintendo, and
I still have
I've
my
I've
original
gone through it.
Nintendo.
Huh?
I still have my original Nintendo.
I would love to have an original Nintendo, but you can buy one for like $30 now, and they have
But it's just the fact
800
that I
games
know
on them.
that's my original one. That's the
Oh
one my
yeah,
dad bought me.
oh
Now I
yeah.
know I had the pad, because I still have the gun that went with it,
Mm-hmm.
and it had the pad too. Remember we did like the games and stuff on it. It was
Mm-hmm.
like the I don't even remember what it's called because it was like the big, you'd get the gaming system, then you get like the additional stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So because Dr. Mario and Duck Hunt was my shit.
I was gonna say I will still play Duck Hunt. It is still cooler than a lot of games that are out there today. I love Duck Hunt. You could do the clay shooting on it too, which would be great, which is fun.
One game I would love to play again. I haven't played probably since. Oh my god, I was probably pre middle school. I was probably like 5th grade. Oregon Trail.
Oh, the original Oregon Trail,
I mean, like
where
the
you could
original on like the old Apple
on the
computer.
computer, yeah, where you could turn into different
It was like
directions at
black
like 8
screen with the
different degrees.
green.
Yeah. Hmm. I remember that. Yeah. That was the best part
Oh,
about computer lab day. Was because you would
yes.
always go to computer lab day and you would do number crunchers or math munchers or whatever
Mhm.
game you played to be educational while I was there.
Yeah.
But
Then
then you would
everyone
be
would
able to
fight
pull
over
that
the
three and a
Oregon
half inch
Trail
floppy disk out and pop it in there and play some Oregon
because
Trail. And oh man, it was fun.
there was only like so many copies that you could get.
Yeah.
Only had like so
Yeah.
many copies in the computer lab, so everyone would like fight.
Yep. Which is funny because I don't know why they would not have had a copy for every computer in the lab. Because honestly, who else wanted to play anything but Oregon Trail? Math Munchers, seriously, I don't want to play that. It was cool graphics for the time, but no, I don't want to play that. I want to play Oregon
Oh
Trail. I
yeah,
want to shoot squirrels and be killed of
and die of dysentery.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. For not having penicillin, something like that. Some simple snake bite, something like that, and be able to play. But if you can't tell by
Like
now,
10, 11 years old, we're like, we don't even, what the hell is dysentery? What is that?
right?
It's like, oh, you died of starvation.
Yeah.
What? Your ox died. I'm like, oh my god.
Well, if you can't
That's how
tell
we
by
learned
now,
our hard
Sarah
lessons.
and I are stalling a little bit because Ross is not quite here yet, and we want to do a little bit of news, which Ross always covers because he's the man with that kind of stuff. He's my
Yeah,
anchor
he keeps.
man, which we'll get into anyway. Which I'm sure there's not really a lot beyond. I don't know. I haven't paid attention. So Ross is my news source. Oh, actually, you know what? We can talk about some stuff here. Let me pull this up real quick because I know that I sent this to y'all the other day. This is the stuff that I sent to us in the group chat that we have, and it is about the Game of Thrones shows. Did you see this?
Now I saw something. I'm like kind of looking at that right now too.
Well, there's a whole list of shows that they put out, and we know that they were going to start doing some Game of Thrones shows, which is I'm always looking forward to because now I've read the books and I've watched this House of the Dragon and all of Game of Thrones, and I'm in love with this series. But they're doing Tales of Dunk and Egg, they're doing the Snow Show, the World of Fire and Ice. Let's see, oh, wrong way. They're doing Nymeria, 10,000 Ships is the name of the show. The 9 Voyages of the Sea Snake, the Golden Empire of Yi-Ti. It's an animated series.
Mhm.
Untitled animated series, and I think that's about it. But man, they've got a lot of really cool stuff coming out, and I'm excited for it. I'm not as excited for the things that most people that I've talked to about this would be. Like everybody's about the Snow Show. But that's the show I'm least excited about when I see all of this because I feel like I like the timeline before Game of
Mhm.
Thrones better than the actual Game of Thrones. So hang on one second. Let's bring Ross in.
Are we talking Game of Thrones?
Yeah, ooh, coming in
Is that what's
loud.
happening?
Yeah,
Coming in hot,
very
dude.
loud. Yeah, man. But we are talking Game of Thrones. We're talking about the new
Sorry, I just went like slept 6 to midnight, man. I was like, wait, what? Hold on. What's happening?
Yeah. What's up, man?
Dude, trying to make every hour count this week.
Hang on a second. You were coming.
Was it hot?
Yeah, you're coming in super loud.
Hold on.
All right. I may be too. I'm not sure, but yeah. So I think I was talking to Nathan about this, and Nathan loves Game of Thrones, and he's really excited about the Snow Show, and I am too. It's not something that I'm not going to like. It's just that of everything, I know that the majority of the other stuff that they're doing is going to be stuff that's already pre-written or predetermined by Martin, whereas the Snow Show is moving forward, not done by Martin. Even though Nathan did tell me that Kit, whatever his name is, the guy who pulled it, yeah, actually went to Martin's house and pitched this show to him and got his approval with this. So I'm sure it's going to be good, but it's just not what I'm excited for. He wasn't my favorite character of the series. Let's put it that way.
I don't really have much to say about that because I mean, it's like I said, I haven't seen Game of Thrones, so it's just. But from what I don't know. I don't know. Jon Snow just doesn't really seems like he's. It seems like so many other characters that you can like really. But I think there was like a little bit attached to him to where you could actually do a little bit more. But
no. Well, I mean, he's a really cool character, but it's like I was telling Nathan, I could think of like 6 characters right off the top of my head from Game of Thrones that could beat the shit out of Jon Snow. Like it wouldn't even be close. Like if he ever faced him alone, there's no way Jon Snow's winning this fight. And it's like, okay, that doesn't mean I don't like the guy, but it's just not. I don't know. I have more characters that I like better than him. That's what I'm saying. Ross, what do you think, man?
He was the continuance of his father, or his uncle, really.
You're the opposite now. You're coming in really low.
See, hold on. I got you.
Right in the middle.
Fix it.
We didn't pregame.
Try that. You got that?
That's perfect.
All right.
I like that.
Yeah. No, I think that he's the perfect version of you take Ed Stark, you take what he stood for in that first season, and full blown spoilers, I don't know if you've said it, but Ed Stark was what felt like lasted the whole entire series of that show, but died in the first season.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that was a force of reckoning, really. And so you take something like Jon Snow, who keeps trying to do right against all odds, and for some reason keeps choosing the hard path against all reasoning, I guess you could say. For him to come out and make a show, I want to see what he's doing once everything stops mattering to him. Like,
yeah,
what happens?
I guess that's a good point. He really has nothing that he has to fight for now.
Mm-hmm.
He's accomplished his goal. Yeah, that's a good point.
I do hate. It's tough because I know you haven't watched the show, Sarah, but
go ahead.
Everyone always says that they hate what they did with Jon Snow in the end, and I am in that camp. I am not a fan of him taking the lone and easy road, and not easy, but the lone and lonesome road, I guess.
You want him to be king at the end.
You do,
right?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
So that part is a little bit tough for me, and so I really want to see what they do with it. Yes, he's a beloved character. You're right. There are countless other characters they can do full-blown series with. Why him? I don't know if there's a good reason or a good answer, but I think it's like any other show that you love. You take a series, you love that series, and then you fall in love with all of these characters individually throughout that series,
right.
And you want to see a bunch of it. Like, look, I don't want to see a Sansa story, but I would love to see an Arya story.
There you go. Okay.
It's there's good examples and bad examples of people that you'd want to see continue on. So,
right.
John, I think, is kind of the middle road.
Well, he is, and the thing is, he deserves it. Like, he was the main character of basically the entire series. He is a fan favorite, even if he's not my favorite character from the show. I didn't dislike the character. And I think that if you're going to have a Game of Thrones show moving forward, he should have something to do with it. I'm just saying, of all the shows, and not of all of them, maybe, I'm just not as excited for a Jon Snow show. I want to see more, like, stuff from Fire and Blood. Like, I love that book and that series, and I like Dunk and Egg. That's gonna be, apart from that series. Like, I'd love to see a Blood and Cheese. Like, there's all kinds of stuff that can come from that series. That's a really awesome time frame to pull stories from. and maybe we'll get that. I'm not sure. But I'm sure that I'm going to love this show when it comes out. It's not like I'm saying I'm not going to watch it or I'm protesting it. When it comes out, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to love it, I'm sure. It's just one that coming in, I'm not as excited for. You know?
Yeah. It's tough. It's always tough in every genre, everything that you like. Using, not that Star Wars is the pinnacle of what we could talk about, but really it's something that's had the longevity and the legs underneath it for years that has been in pop culture. And, we still to this day talk about wanting to see Thrawn. That was like a 90s thing. We still talk about all of these different possibilities of stories you can get. And the books did a lot of that heavy lifting, which Game of Thrones had the books beforehand. So now you're kind of left to the idea that there are tons of stories that you could choose from. There's also a whole universe that could exist within this thing. And there's a whole massive thing that, creators and writers could really come up with great ideas to push something like this forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a lot of room to work with because they've had stuff they've talked about in the shows that you've never seen. They have books that have stuff that have never been talked about in the shows, or at least that they've been mentioned in the shows, but just as part of history and stuff like that. They have so many places they could go with this. This is something that could be as big as a Star Wars universe, I believe. And because it's coming out in this time period, it's just going to grow so much faster and catch up to Star Wars so much faster than that, even though the Star Wars universe is insanely large. Between movies, books, television shows, everything else, insanely large. There's no way to cover it all. Absolutely no way. But, I mean, I'm excited for it. I don't know what the release dates are for any of these shows, but it's good to see some news that this is what they have in the works, or this is the plans at least. I know things can always change, but we'll keep track of it and continue to see what happens. So, Ross, is there any news this week that came out?
There probably is, but I didn't write any down.
Yeah, that's cool because I really didn't see much big either. Oh, you know what? I did see, and I put this in the chat room. Did y'all watch that 6-minute video of the chat room or our chat? Did you watch the 6-minute video of the Suicide Squad versus or Kills Justice League video game they put out? Rocksteady put out.
I've seen the headlines. All that came with was it the PlayStation
PS5?
The PS5 thing.
Yeah,
I saw quite a bit of people talking about it. I have not watched it. No, I'm a little burnt on video gameplay because I love watching video gameplay, but then at the end of the day, like, it means nothing, and I'm like, this is so fucking awesome, right? But it means nothing, and I hate that. I hate the rise for no occasion.
Yeah. Honestly, man, with most of these games, while I do love playing the games, I'm more excited about seeing the cutscene movies from them.
Yeah,
because you can put those together in an hour-and-a-half show or an hour-and-a-half movie, and it's just really fun to watch the storyline play through. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I'll get this game. I would like to say that I would, but I just don't have time for games right now. I'm trying to get this new Hogwarts game because apparently it is the shit. And, my daughter just turned 16, so I bought a hard drive for my PlayStation 4 so that way I could put more memory on it so I could buy this game. I just can't find it physically anywhere. I'm going to have to buy it digitally, I think, because I cannot find a physical copy of this game anywhere. Even when I go on Amazon, it says a pre-order for April 4th, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of games now, you're not going to get hard copies. Everything's going to be digital.
Don't like that. I want hard
copies. Which is funny, right? Because, like, when the Xbox X comes out, you pay for the disc drive. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you pay for that extra little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess it does give you the option of playing
DVDs,
Blu-rays, DVDs, stuff like that. But
once again, that anymore.
I know.
I could not tell you the last time I pulled a disc out. Funny story, Ross. Do you remember the Jeep that my parents bought when I was younger? The green Jeep.
Oh yeah, the
Wrangler. I drove that home today and gave it to my daughter.
The Cherokee.
Cherokee.
Wait, what?
I drove that home today and gave it to my daughter.
Really?
Yeah.
Family heirloom.
Yeah, for her first car. It's crazy. That car is still running really well, actually. And when I got in it, it was crazy because it has a cassette player and a CD player. And there were actually cassettes and CDs in the little visor up top. And I was like, wow, this brings me back. And what's funny is I remember being younger and I thought this Jeep was so big. so big, and
Oh,
now
it's really not.
it's not at all. It's tiny.
No,
It's
it
I
is
felt
so
I was
small.
like crunched down driving in
You
it.
sit in the middle in the back seat, and you're like, can I get elbow room? Like I'm
Oh
in the
man,
middle.
yeah. I just remember this thing being so big when I was younger, but it's so small now. But you know what? It's my daughter's first car. She loved it. I let her drive it a little bit today. So
First
fun
off,
times.
lucky her.
Yeah.
Second off, I just replaced the sun visor in a car, and
Mhm.
it came with a free CD holder, and I'm like, why?
For looks.
Don't get me wrong, I would have been tickled 2 decades ago, but why?
I think that kids are wanting to use CDs now more because I know my daughter like specifically was trying to find a place to play CDs. She got a CD for her 16th birthday
ACD.
from a friend,
Like,
ACD, for her
oh,
16th
CD.
birthday. Exactly. Well, I know she loves playing records, but I think
That's not the same.
no, it's definitely not the
No.
same. But she was asking me, she was like, how come we can't play CDs in the car? And I was like, because nobody plays CDs anymore. I mean,
Do
honestly,
you
it's
remember
really
how
what it
hard
is.
I had to try to find a CDRW player
Yeah.
for a vehicle? Like when we were kids?
Oh my God, I still remember having the CD player where you had like plugged it into the cigarette lighter.
Yeah.
And then you had to like don't hit a bump because it was skip.
Before you had the anti-skip.
And
that's
you had to
right.
plug it, had the adapter for the cassette player to go into it.
Yep.
Yes. Oh my God.
This is We Are Old podcast. Thanks for tuning in on a Friday night.
Yeah,
Oh
it
my
really
God.
is.
And I
Wow.
know I still have like the visor. I know I still have it somewhere because I know I have some CDs still stuck in it. And I have like, I hope the hell I haven't thrown it out, but it's like I still have a box of like cassettes. But yeah, and I still in my car, I have my CD holder. It was like the one you're driving down the road and you pop it. I didn't have the big book. I've got like the smaller one.
The CD holder, I had one of the tall big books, but the CD holder always had like 4 burned CDs in it, and it had like the best of your own best collection from like
It
Columbia.
was your own like mixtape. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's like
Yep. You remember recording stuff off the radio? Where you
Mhm.
have to pause during breaks and then
Mhm.
put it back on. Yeah, that was fun
I think I
times.
still have some of those cassette tapes somewhere where I like tape stuff off the radio.
Remember, I could only record the stuff my sister had, so I was rocking out some Aerosmith, Pantera, like all that good stuff. My sister had all those albums, and I was like, all right, cool. That's what I'm listening to. So,
Oh my God, I had that Faith No More album that tape. I think I just listened to. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
And
wow,
then my
we
Pearl
just
Jam
chased a huge
10.
squirrel. Yeah. Well, I think I would say Weird Al Yankovic, the Amish Paradise album, the Hootie and the Blowfish album that everybody had, Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill, and
That
the
was my
No Doubt
94.
Tragic Kingdom album were my first CDs that I ever bought at Blockbuster. Funny enough, Sarah and I were talking about Blockbuster earlier. When I was younger, those are the first 4 albums that I ever bought. I can remember that. I don't know why those stand out in my head, but and then of course everybody had that Blues Travelers album, the green back with the cat on it.
Self-titled.
Yeah, what's another one?
My favorite was Bush 16 Stone.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Very, very good one. Yeah. And then everybody had the Green Day, the Dookie album, right?
And of course, Soundgarden, Bad Motor Finger.
Mhm.
Sublime. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to think about albums. And you know what's funny is I remember listening to the Sublime album so many times when I was younger that now when I hear a song from that album, I automatically am ready for the next song on that album to start.
Yeah.
And like in my mind, the next song starts up and I'm ready to go. And it doesn't happen like that on the radio. It's crazy.
It always gets me for like that. It's the same thing for that Tom Petty. Is it Full Moon Fever where he's like, now insert cassette number 2, like if you wait long enough for that last song, it's moments like that where I catch myself where I'm like, even I know the stupid things that the tapes and the cassettes and the CDs had lyric wise on them. I still remember that.
Yeah.
But what's really depressing is the fact that a lot of these, what we grew up with, is now on the oldie station.
Oh yeah.
Are you kidding me? The stuff I grew up with on Nick at Night right now. Like I watch Nick at Night and I'm like, hell yeah, let's watch this right now. What's up? This is my jam right here.
How the tables have turned.
Yes.
Whereas we used to be kids and like,
We're
who watches
old
Nick
now.
at Night?
Right. Yeah, I noticed that the other day and I was like, oh shit, I like Nick at Night. Oh man, I am old. Oh well, part of it.
This was
part of
all that.
That was a huge squirrel. big,
I
big
mean, it's
fat old
fun to
squirrel we
think about
chased right
nostalgic
there.
things like that. I mean,
It
that's
is.
kind of like, because like you said, if your daughter is all about, CDs. I mean, the boy, he got it's not a Walkman, it's like a knockoff Walkman, but he wanted a Walkman. I'm like, how aggravating them damn things are. Always
but
change the batteries on that shit because they just like drain batteries. Because
but
especially when it's playing and then the tape is like, it just gets like.
it's not rechargeable.
A lot of them are, but
I was
probably
gonna
not.
say because like I feel like nowadays they could make stuff like Walkmans, Game Boys, and they could make them almost just like what we had, but all the little things that were wrong with them,
Yeah,
they could
they
fix.
add everything.
But it's just
Bluetooth,
the
they add
fact
all
of
that
my
stuff
child
now.
wanting my 12-year-old child wanting something that I had probably when I was his age or younger.
Yeah.
It's insane because I'm like cassette tapes. I mean, think about how long it's been since you really thought about a cassette tape.
Oh yeah. I
So
walk into
it
stores
just
now
blows
and I
my
see them
mind.
sitting up there, and I'm like, man, I just kind of want to buy some just to like put on a rack at home, but no,
You just want the case. I mean, if you're gonna have cassette tapes, you've got to have the holder for them that has that vinyl wood pattern on it that everybody has. The cassette
the
tape
old like
holders.
fold
Yeah,
cover, fold over cover.
the
Oh,
old school
before they were
ones.
all clear.
Yep.
It's like the. Oh my god! I think
Nostalgia
Appetite
Lane.
was for Destruction was like one of the first ones I got.
Oh yeah.
And then come to find out, Guns N' Roses is actually I think going on tour this year.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
I heard something about that, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to pay money to see Axl. Because I'm like,
What's that stuff they stick in corpses? You put enough of it in him, he can stand upright.
Oh my god, what's in the next? Oh shit, what's the guy from Rolling Stones? I can't think
Mick
of his
Jagger?
name.
Oh,
No.
Keith Richards?
Yes, let's see like the next Keith Richards because poor
Look,
Axl, he has not aged well.
There are certain things that I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm just cutting them off. Major concerts, I feel like is one of them because all I can think about whenever I go to them is how much money I've spent. Amusement parks.
Yeah.
I think I'm done with amusement parks. Like I love roller coasters. I love rides. Amusement parks are great. But I've noticed the last 3 times I've gone to them, I've just been so frustrated all day waiting in lines. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm too old for this. I've ridden roller coasters before in my life. I'm done. Like I just think there's certain things I'm writing off as I start to get a little older. And I think major concerts might be one of them based on the price.
My thing, it's not just that, it's parking.
Oh yeah. The whole frustration of it.
I'm like,
it's honestly why I haven't been to a game in
right
years.
there and not have to walk a mile and just I'm good, but it's usually the logistics of getting somewhere.
And the anxiety inside me where I'm like, someone's going to hit my vehicle because people don't give a shit about things anymore.
Or someone's going to hit me while I'm trying to walk a mile to the venue. It's like
I almost got taken off the highway earlier. Just trying to drive home. Like I'm just trying, little old guy just trying to get home from like a busy day.
Mind your business.
Yeah. And this dude's trying to go from a right lane all the way over to a left exit. And I'm like, I'm right here, man. Right here.
Like,
big gray truck, bro.
Like two things cannot occupy the same space.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. I-40. Oh my god. I just want to like murder somebody because can't nobody drive.
I'm not giving up on amusement parks until I go to Galaxy's Edge. Period. Done.
Oh, I know.
Well,
that is on the list. That is on the list.
Yep.
Well, look, my sister's moving to California in this summer. And I've got a reason to go out to California next year, like a legitimate reason to go out to California next year. So while I say I'm writing off amusement parks, should there be a chance that I can go to Galaxy's Edge, that might change things.
I got some pictures.
So I'll give you that.
Yep.
Now, I highly doubt that I could, to be truly honest with you, because I'm pretty sure that's like a $600 day if you want to go do that. But save up for it, I guess. We'll see.
All I'm saying is that, some things in life are worth the money.
Oh, I agree.
Some things. If I can feel like I can immerse myself into an experience that takes me out of everything else and puts me right where like I feel like I belong. Yeah.
Like sitting in Quark's bar.
Sitting where?
Quark's bar.
Oh,
it was probably the early 2000s. Went to Vegas. The Vegas Hilton, like that's when that had the Star Trek experience.
Mm-hmm.
So in there, it's like when you first walked in, it looked exactly like Quark's bar. So when you're in there, you're just like, No, it was kind of like a residency for like a number of years, and I forgot how long. It probably closed. God, I can't remember when, because like I said, it was probably 2000s. It was the early 2000s I went. I think it was probably I know it was after 2001, so I mean like 2 or 3 or something like that. I can't remember. I mean it's
Well,
been
yeah.
eons ago, but it was something that I think it closed like a few years ago, but it'd been like open like forever. But it was the most awesome thing because yeah, I'll have to like show you those pictures because they actually had a Borg alcove, so you could like actually stand in a Borg alcove. Trying to think what else. Oh, and they had the bridge of the Enterprise because Brian
That'd be
actually I
cool.
took a photo, so he actually took that photo and photoshopped a command uniform on me. I was
Oh,
like, Brian,
nice.
can you do this? He's like, yeah, I got you.
Nice.
So that was something where I was there from like 9 o'clock that morning to 4 o'clock that afternoon. It was just me because my friends were doing something else. They had like a conference or something to go to. So I had like all day to just do whatever I wanted to. And it was like literally 9 a.m. to 4 o'clock. And that's where I stood.
Hell
It
yeah.
was,
Shit,
you talk
yeah.
about a total immersive experience.
Yeah. I
That was
wouldn't
the
have been anywhere
shit.
else. Yep.
That was the shit.
I hear you. It is always fun to find places like that. And the con's kind of like that too. You know, I know the Triad Anime Con's coming up again, I think next month. I don't know if we're going because I think I want to spring for the Galaxy Con in Raleigh. And I
Now,
kind of want
Fayetteville's got one. I don't know if it's whatever, but I keep seeing stuff. They're having a lot of like Power Ranger folks.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing. I think GalaxyCon is the most major one that comes through this area closest to me. So I'd like to be able to go to that. Actually, I'm going to that because I know I've already got my dollar tickets for it. So I'm definitely going to that, working on the cosplay for it. But you're right. It would be fun to totally immerse yourself in a universe like that.
Oh
I
my
feel like
God,
if I
dude,
if
it
I could go
was.
somewhere with a mask on, I could really do anything, and I just wouldn't care what people thought about me because I'm wearing a mask. You know, I think a mask would make me feel really, really protected. I don't know why. Also, all right.
Sarah, you brought up Power Rangers. Hold on.
Hmm?
Did you guys see that whole like what's his nuts? David Yost from the Power Rangers released that whatever his quantum continuum script was for the new Power Rangers short season thing that he's trying to do?
No.
Uh-uh.
All right, I haven't read a whole lot about it, but I'll look into it and send you guys more information as I actually find it out. I saw it and I saw that he had basically what they're trying to do is like a short series of like the OG Power Rangers, and it's been in the works for years that he's been trying to make this happen, but his version of it is Power Rangers Quantum Continuum, and so I guess they actually dropped the story arc that he's trying to tell with the whole short series. So I'll have to get into it and read about it a little bit.
It would
that'll
be
be
kind of
fun.
cool to see, just kind of extend that little universe, kind of like the Next Generation and what Picard is doing.
Boom! Look
They're
at
kind of
this.
extending that.
Ooh, look at that transition.
Right into that.
Skills. 170 episodes in. That's called skills right there.
We're getting it.
Yeah. Walk us
Sarah,
into it.
take us away.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Actually,
dude.
start us off and make something to drink.
Oh my gosh, this is just beyond anything I could
It's
ever
the
have
thing,
imagined.
right?
Dude, it's so awesome because I mean you're peppering it with so much of like these characters. I mean, who's gonna all the Next Generation characters. They're gonna come up, but just like when are they gonna show up? How are they gonna be involved? What have they been doing? Because if you think about it, in the first episode, it was discussed. It's been a 20-year period. Basically, it was 20 years since Picard had seen Beverly, and I'm like, what in the hell have they been doing since then? So, and I'm thinking that's what we're kind of going to be exploring in this season, because the first episode, obviously we see Beverly and then we meet her son. So that was like the cliffhanger of that episode. So here, let's drop into episode 2, where you're just like, oh my God, what the hell's going on? Which the captain of the ship, I remember seeing her, and what was her name?
Wait, Captain. Oh, Captain.
Of the enemy ship?
Yes.
Yes. because
I
I
can't remember her
remember
name.
seeing, I
Yeah.
remember seeing, you know,
I got
like
you.
Drake or something like that.
when they were kind of like talking about. I remember seeing her face. So I'm thinking, okay, she's gonna be the baddie, and I'm like, this is gonna be
The
interesting.
marked woman with the scars.
Yeah,
I'm assuming
and
she is the marked woman, right? The one that they were referencing.
well, she's kind of an odd bird, and it's really
I described it as very psycho to a point to where like Crazy and Psycho had a baby and spit this thing out, right? Like it's
but
I
very
can
like
laugh.
intelligent, very like
Yes,
just it's, but like
that's like the
psychotic to the
crazy
point that
smart.
It's megalomania, is
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
It's kind of, and it kind of makes the best villains are the ones who are kind of like megalomaniacs, you know. But I feel like this one did a really good job of portraying a villain right away. Like, you know, okay, bad guy spotted. Y'all are both looking up the name. I keep want to
Vatic?
say like
Yeah.
Shriek or something like that.
Is that
well, I know the name of the ship was like it was really interesting the way that
the name of the ship was the Shrike?
Shrike? Okay, that was
yeah,
a
and it
ship,
was like
not
a,
her.
a
Okay.
bird that was like very just
Vatic was the name of the
Mm,
the captain,
okay.
okay.
played by Amanda Plummer.
But I mean, it was that's the kind of character where you're like, ooh, this is a good. It's almost like a villain, so to speak, that you would expect from the Next Generation story. Because you know they were so good about having Star Trek is so good about having villains. I mean, their villains are just so, you know, when they're first introduced, it's like it's like I kind of go back to Nemesis when you met Shinzon. You're like, is he really the villain?
Yeah,
You know,
they
is he?
introduce,
Yeah,
they build, and then they like drop the hammer on like, no, this person is horrible,
yeah,
like
exactly.
the worst creation possible.
Mm.
But the thing about this particular villain and whatnot is, like I said, the psychological aspect because she was picking Shaw apart. Like,
Oh yeah.
okay, what is this guy's backstory? Does he have? Because it was kind of alluding like, I think he's had mental issues in the past, is what it kind of sounds like. Which I don't. My first initial with Shaw, I'm thinking this guy's walking he's walking a tightrope. He just seems like he's like, you know, just strung kind of, you know, tight. I don't know. It was just kind of a weird feeling because number one, you know, he just kind of like basically just, you know, piss off to, you know, Picard and Riker. And it's just kind of like Seven says. And yes, it's 7 of 9. It's not Anakin. It's not Annika. Her name is 7 of 9. Thank you. But, you know, she's just like, you know, tells him, like, are you going to be the one that, you know, doesn't stand up, you know, and handle this? Or are you going to be the one that, you know, be responsible for killing 2 legends? And he's like, what? She's like, yeah, mic
Well,
drop.
to be fair, he's not wrong.
I
Like
know.
this captain
I
is
get
not
that.
wrong. Like Picard and his boy are totally going off the rails here and doing stuff that is not protocol and not like permitted. He's not wrong. And when she gives him that scenario of, are you going to be the guy who does this or that? You've kind of backed him into a corner because if you hadn't done what you shouldn't have done before, you wouldn't even be in the situation. So like
Yeah.
honestly, had you listened to him before, this would have never happened. Now I get it's the point of the show. You know, the loyalty is what they're showing. But while this character seems like kind of a dick, he's not wrong by any means. Like you said, he's looking out for the lives of 500 people on that ship. He's completely in the right for just about
they're
everything
not-
he
Oh
says.
yeah, I mean, I'm
They're
not
not
disputing
breaking
that.
basic things either. They're breaking massive
Right.
problems.
Right.
Like this is like Federation ending, and also they don't know what just happened to the recruitment center. Like
Right.
there is no
Mhm.
knowledge of that. They're in a dead space working literally on the worst possible scenario, which is breaking one of the biggest things that you can break next to their, you know, their numero uno protocol, which is, you know, not to let the certain species
Oh, the
know
prime directive.
the prime
Mhm.
directive. So when
Yeah.
you have that number one thing that you're supposed to not do, the number two thing is not go where you don't belong.
Right.
And they're doing that.
Mhm.
Not only
It's
are
kind of
they
like they
doing
created
that,
their own Kobayashi Maru, honestly.
they
'Cause that's
did,
the only
yeah.
thing that was like really in my head. Like, okay, how are you going to get out of this?
Mhm.
But and to your point about about the ship, about the striker coming in and showing its game. She said right off the bat, "You have 1 hour."
Mhm.
In lieu of knowing what you don't know, I'm going to let you scan my ship. And then it was like, this thing contains everything that you would want in a Walmart of war weapons.
Yeah.
And here
And
you
even
have
stuff
it.
you don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So take your 69 minutes and figure it out, because I've been talking for 9 of them. She literally sat there and just kept conversing the whole entire time.
That's true. She did waste a little bit of time. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the situation is crazy that they're in, and especially with the way this episode ends, it's going to be funny. We'll get to that point. But can we talk about Rafi too? Like in this storyline with her, because
Yeah.
okay, so apparently she's at some point in time had to make a choice between her son and I guess her former lover, husband, spouse, I'm not sure what he was, and the Starfleet. And I feel like this is another situation where she's kind of put in an unfair advantage here because while I love my family and my daughters, when you're put in a situation as far as like Starfleet, that's like the military. And like if you're in the military and the country is dependent on you to do this,
Mm-hmm.
while I love my family, I do have to weigh out the consequences of my country, the entire people who live here, and everybody I'm fighting for
That even
depends on me to do
includes your
this.
family.
Yeah,
So
that
it's not
includes
just
my
that,
family,
it's
exactly. Or
all
seeing my
inclusive.
family. So I feel like she was kind of backed into a corner in this situation too. But
Mhm.
I don't know. How do y'all feel?
What's
I
the
felt the
saying
same
in the
way.
military?
I
Yeah,
felt
it
the same
is. It's
way.
exactly what it is. Yeah.
The saying in the military is if military want me to have a wife and kids, they'd issue them. And I mean, look, that's crap. At the end of the day, it's crap because
Yeah.
I'm a
But
person that believes that you are your own tribe. You want to be part of other tribes. Like that's the thing. And yes, that
well, Star
uh,
Trek's always about the greater good as well. So I mean, it's not
yes,
just individual. It's it's everything. So, but then again, I think probably her dependency. That probably had something that kind of played into it
very
as
much so.
well. So I don't think it was if it was like face value of actually choosing, like I said, Starfleet over that. I think that would probably been something different. But the fact that she did have the other dependency issues as well, I think that kind of played into it too because that was alluded to as well.
Yeah.
They played to
Like,
her
are you
worst
still using?
demons.
Are you still just like, no, I'm good.
Mhm. But then it's like you have a choice. You can prove it, or you can get the hell out of here. And
Yeah.
that was very, very sour of them, and it was going to happen. But I mean, look, let's as much as this scene is very important, I think that it means nothing after you're given the finality of the scene.
Okay.
And that finality of that scene is what both of you said. And as both of you said it, I'm like, they watched it.
Yeah. I didn't know what you
watched
meant
it
when you
too.
said that. And as soon as I watched it, I was like, oh, that's what she meant. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Speak on
But
it.
When
getting to that point though, before we get to that, I want to talk about Jack Crusher.
Yeah, let's do that too.
This dude, when you first meet him, the end of episode 1, you're like, this cat is shady as hell. So and as we're going through episode 2, because there's Picard sits down, and of course we find out that that's who they're after. That's who the captain of the Shrike is after.
I love how he
Like,
figured that out too. Process of elimination. Like,
but the thing about it is, the whole question, and I think I know why they did it like this. But okay, how hard would it be to do a damn genetic test? If Maury can do it, why the hell can't you do it?
oh, I know.
But I mean, I don't need somebody to tell me. It's like, oh, you see what I'm seeing, don't you? It's like basically, can you connect the dots? I'm like, oh, seriously? Just one little test, boom, in there, in and out, done. All good. I'm like, why? But I mean, I get you want to draw out the dramatics of it. I get that.
Gotcha.
It's the same thing in Nemesis, when you're trying to figure out who Shinzon is. And finally, when you get the big reveal, you're like, oh shit, that's crazy. It's big spoiler. It's Picard's clone.
Well, My question is, are they going to blacklist us at the end of this? Where like, oh, Picard is his father. No, Picard's not his father. Oh, Picard is his father. No, Picard's not his
Well, I
father.
mean,
Like
they
they do
go
it like,
back and forth, and it's like, and then Beverly gives him the one look, and he's like, fuck. It's just like right there. She's like,
I'm gonna pull out that A card. Admiral Picard speaking.
how like injured was she really? If old boy could just give her a shot and then be able to pull her out of
well,
her little
what they did when
cryogenic
they
sleep.
brought her into sick bay, they basically repaired all of her injuries. So basically, she was just kind of laying there. They just wanted her just kind of like, recuperate. But you get that hypo spray, and they got all kinds of medications. They can put you out. They can bring you back. They can, all. So Riker's like, because it's happened to him a few times too.
Yeah.
He's like, no, bitch, we're going to figure this out right now.
I think that's always with the, you got to take that with the advancement of medicine part of it, which is like, we can fix you really, really fast, but we got to put you out. Like, we can fix all your problems, but you got to like sleep for 36 hours nonstop, doing nothing, period, 100%.
It's like there's those med bays and stuff that you used to see. You'd go under, they'd be doing their little surgeries and stuff. I mean, you're like, they're just like knitting bones back together. You get a broke bone. Oh, just go to sick bay. They'll get you, you'd be fixed up within an hour. So it was just.
So with her, if she was shot in like a bad spot, it's quite possible that, whatever happened, all that she needed in order to get back on her feet was that like a little bit of, hey, wake me up. Here's some caffeine. Like, let's take a walk. Like, your face needs to be seen. That was the moment that was necessary. I was like, that's why she didn't need to speak a line. All I needed to do is walk down to the bridge, show my face. Riker got her there. Riker did it all. Yeah, because Riker knew he had that whole entire line. It's like, how are you not like? Are you Jean-Luc Picard? Are you the person that I've been around for years and years and years? Because you're not like getting this. Like, everyone else is getting this. How are you not getting this?
Well, I guess technically it's not, because it's the synthetic body. So it's just the downloaded.
It's the update to the restore version.
Yeah, exactly. It's Picard, 2.0. But that was just interesting, because I'm like, I'm trying to figure this character out, because it's like, are you a bad guy? Are you misunderstood? I mean, what exactly is going on here? I'm just
Jack.
like, yeah.
You know what I think is kind of funny is like there is that moment where it's the reveal where he's like, where the captain's like, why should we do this? He's against it the whole time. He's like, it's my son. And then all of a sudden the captain's like, well, shit. Okay, let's do it. I'm like, really? Like, that was all it took? Like, just say it's my son? Because quite honestly, that makes the situation even worse, because now on top of breaking all the rules, you're throwing nepotism in there. So,
but the thing about it is, it makes me wonder what Shaw's background is. So you don't really know that much about Shaw.
True.
And plus it had already, and like I said, within this whole little spiel of that, our villain captain here, she's like throwing all this stuff out, and you're like, whoa, there's a lot of dots here we're trying to connect. And I'm like,
well, I gotta say one thing about Shaw.
All right.
He reminds me of like a combination between Nikki Sixx and Dave Matthews.
Wow. Wow.
Look, I know where this is going. This is crazy, and this is like a whole lot of like really weird
crazy.
things.
Now I'm trying to picture that.
But it's like if Dave Matthews had more hair and a freaking attitude, like you'd get some weird version of Shaw to where it's like, look, I know what's right, but then like it's like, but the show must go on. Like, I got to keep going.
Right.
And like that's what he is like to me. And like when I watched that first episode, I watched it before last week's show, and it was like I was really trying to cram it in, and I'm like, this dude is not working for me. And then like I kept on having the problem with him not like showing respect to Riker and Picard. But then like watching it this week, and I'm like, this wishy-washy idiot, like, what is going on? And I'm like, he's like the worst person I could put together right now. And then for some reason those two names popped in my head.
I mean, that's an interesting way to bring yourself to that, to be truly honest.
I don't know how I really got there.
It's an interesting path. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really mind this character, because like I always try to put myself in the character's position to see how I would feel and how I'd react. And I kind of feel like, once again, I'd be kind of like him. I mean, like dude, you two are retired. I'm worried about the safety of this ship. Like, screw y'all. type thing. So I can't
Very
be too
much
mad
so.
at this character. You know,
Yeah.
you want to
That's what
be.
you always talk about with Enterprise. You know, it's like, oh, this is a scientific vessel. No, you still locked and loaded, my friend. You
Right.
still
Yep.
got something under the
Right.
you got something in those in those
Tubes.
tubes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
But
look, we were talking about connecting, like how all this stuff's going to connect together. I want to know how this Rafi story is going to connect. Rafi story is going to connect.
Rafi.
So let's get into that one and how, or because I know I've already seen previews and clips of certain characters together. I just don't know how this is all going to connect.
well, with Rafi, like her being, you know, in the undercover and that, because you know, what was it in the previous episode? You know, she was basically talking to her handler. So your handler was like, just no, not doing it, because she kept asking. It's like, I need a face-to-face meeting. And he's like, no, denied, not going to happen. Well, then, you know, she's starting to put two and two together, because they're trying to, like, whatever weapon that she's after, and after, you know, the building is like obliterated and all that kind of stuff. You know, now they're saying, okay, they're gonna pin it on this Romulan, whomever, some black market
Tulak.
dude. You know, yeah. And she's like, that's some bullshit right there. She's like, no, no, they're covering this shit up. So then, of course, you got to throw a Ferengi in there. You got to, because is there any like underhand strange shit afoot? There's going to be a Ferengi somewhere. So it was interesting to see this particular Ferengi, because he had like the tattoos on his lobes, and he had like, you know, on his frontal lobes, and he had like the piercings and everything. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And which she had, because it sounded like Rafi's, I guess the father of her son or whatnot, he owns a bar, so he knows a little bit about the dealings in the back
The
of
ins
the
and
bar,
outs.
or so to
Yeah.
speak. So that's when she was asking for this meeting, and then of course, you know, the whole thing about, you know, her son, this, blah blah blah, you know, choose, and she's just like, can you just get me the damn meeting? You know, just
Yeah.
like, God, just stop playing my game. So she gets his meeting, meets this guy, the Ferengi, and I suck at names. I need to write this shit down, but I'm like so in the midst of everything, I just can't.
Oh, his name?
I can't.
So
It was something stupid. But
oh,
anyway,
my Lord.
so she gets a meeting with this dude, and of course, you know, she's saying, well, you're like, you know, I work for, you know, this Romulan, I'm doing it. He's like, oh, you mean this guy? It's like, oh my
Sneed.
God, really? Sneed, yeah.
Yeah.
Pulls old dude's head out. I'm like, oh shit, this cannot be good. So anyways, and then she ends up taking the drug, which is like, he called it, oh God, what did he call it? It was something because it would break you apart and put you back together, or some splinter. I think it was like splinter or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
That doesn't look like anything I'd want to be messing with.
Look kind of
No,
like a roofie. To be honest with you, like a roofie on steroids.
it looked like
Well, I mean,
a drug you'd give your worst enemy is what,
Mhm.
you know,
yeah,
like,
because I don't, you know, anything that just,
like a torture device.
Yeah. So she takes that, and he's like, oh, well, you know, because he's like, I'm going to get the truth out of you. And then, you know, she does that, and she's like, whatever. And he could tell she was fighting it. So then he's trying to, like, basically, you know, blow holes in her story. And then, of course, that's when he whips out, you know, the guy's head behind. He's like, oh, because here he is. And then next thing you know, there's the battlist. There it is, just swinging left and right, just taking out everything. Next thing you know, Ferengi's head rolls, and you're like, boom, I see white hair. I see a forehead ridge, and I'm like, there he is. And of course, then Rafi, in the midst of all this, she falls down and kind of like passes out, and just like in this other world or whatever. Then finally picks her up, and he's like, I told you, do not engage. And you're just like, boom, mind blown. And of course, we were talking about Worf.
Yes. And like I was telling you guys earlier, you know, I'm not a huge Star Trek person from when I was younger, but of all the characters I remember, that's one of them, just because of the way he looked. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool to like be like that, to like dress up like that. That'd be some really cool cosplay to do. So it doesn't mean as much for me with this character coming in, besides the fact that I recognize him before. But like, what does it mean for y'all?
Oh man.
Oh,
First off,
like,
I didn't think it was Worf. I thought it could be like Eleanor or somebody that just like showed up out of nowhere. I thought it was going to be weird because I thought it was going to be more of like a protector status than it was like the handler was going to show up. But then it was Worf, and I'm like,
And then when you connected the dots that he was the handler, you're like, whoa, hold on.
yeah,
Because-
which still strikes me as odd, but yeah. It strikes me as odd because to think of someone like Worf with all the knowledge I have about him from TNG, to put
And
him in a
DS9.
position, but to put him in a position of a handler of an asset just seemed. I don't want to say that it seemed far fetched. It just seemed odd, like right off the bat.
Well,
And
I mean,
I'm not-
it's form of security because that he had been
Yeah.
security officer for so long.
True.
And then now, we're probably going to find out where he's actually advanced to because I'm trying to remember. I know in something like the book series, he would end up like being like number one. I mean, I don't think he was ever captain or anything, but he was like, commander, that kind of thing. So I'm just kind of curious how they're going to explain what he's been doing, within this 20-year period. Which, I mean, after Next Generation, I mean, we kind of fill in a little bit of the blanks with him, especially DS9 and all that kind of stuff. But, just kind of like maybe that 10-year period to kind of lead up to this.
Right.
And
So,
the experience that I know about military, just as like a faux pas for this whole entire thing, really is that there are two types, and there really is like you are the active person doing the physical mission, and you're the person behind the scene doing the other thing. And the person behind the scene doing the other thing could be very, very low or it could be very, very high. In the aspect of you can be the one making decisions to help push the people on the ships to go do the things, or you can be the one that's, in support of.
Right.
And typically those types of positions, everyone always thinks that the people actually on the ships doing the things are the ones that are truly important, but it takes both
Right.
sides of the spectrum to make the mission go forward all the time. So it's very interesting to see and to know potentially where Worf could be. So I do love that, not knowing yet what next episodes hold, because I have not watched any of the other content from Picard this season. I've really wanted to be surprised and in awe of what they do.
Okay.
I've really held back on anything extra that I possibly could have.
That's why, because the only reason it even dawned on me that could have been Worf, or there was Worf, was the white hair, because seeing the posters, all of everything leading up to it, because you actually see the characters, which, I mean, we've seen Riker, we've seen Troy in previous seasons. But to see a white-haired Worf, I'm like, oh my God, that's nuts.
Well, Ross, if you have not looked into anything and you're taking everything by surprise, I'm not going to say anything else, because I have been looking into stuff and I've seen pictures and seen things, and I'm just not going to say anything else. It's going to be a fun ride. I don't know where things are going, but I'm glad you said that, because I was just about to unload. So I won't do that now. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see I want to see how these stories connect. Like I said, once again, because as we know it right now, everything that happened to the academy, because that was what got blown up, right? Or sucked into the portal.
Recruitment.
Yeah.
Facility,
Whatever it was. And what's happening with Picard, as of right now, have nothing to do with each other at all. Correct? So we don't know if these two stories tie in, if by some chance these characters cross paths by some other means, or what's going to happen. But I'm loving this
Which
series
is
so far.
why I think that I really want to see Raffi come out on top. Like, I want her to be able to solve the problem, not be able to fix it, more or less, because shit's already blown up, but be able to solve the problem and also solve her own personal problems.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you stick her, not rock bottom, but when you stick her in a moment to where she's doing drugs, like right off the bat in the beginning of this season, that is going to end her in a position very well at the end of the season.
You would hope so, but I mean, like, I look back at Raffi last season, and it just seems like it's this character that always has something going on.
Happening,
Always,
yeah.
like, you feel bad for her, man, because it just seems like she never has a good day.
Like, she can never get ahead. It's like, I'm just trying to
like
do
no matter
good,
what
but
she
I
does,
just
she's
can't
always
quite
behind
get
the eight
there.
ball. Yeah,
She's self-destructive.
terrible.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Like I said, I think they're going to tie all these characters together somehow, some way. We all got a pretty good feeling this is the last of Jean-Luc
Us?
Picard. Well, I mean, we're not going to see any more Jean-Luc Picard after this. Let's put
Yeah,
it
I
that
think
way.
this is going to be the end.
Yeah.
This
He
will
may
be
not
the end of
die,
that
but
story
this will be
arc.
the end of that story arc. Yeah.
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 I personally think you go out with a bang and you make him sacrifice himself for something, the greater
I
good.
cannot. No,
We'll
we
see what
can't have a data
happens.
moment. We can't have a data moment.
We'll
no.
see what happens.
No.
So.
No. No.
All right. Well, is there anything else
Heart
you want to
can't
say
take
about
it.
this week's episode of Picard? We've ripped this one apart because this is a fantastic show. You should be watching it.
Let's see. It was good. I think that I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the captain of the Shrike. I think that there is a whole lot there that they could do because there's mere breadcrumbs that they've gave us so far.
Because now they're in the nebula, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've flown to the nebula. Okay.
And I think that the mindset of that captain is very much Q-esque. And when I say that, I mean like she is trying to play a game.
Mm-hmm.
She is setting out rules. She is given out like there are certain guidelines, and it's almost like you can say shooting fish in a barrel. Like it's almost too easy for her. She's trying to give that persona that it's too easy for her to accomplish these things. But man, she's making it seem like a screwed up game. And so you got the wonderful story of Rafi, the recruitment center, and the technology. Picard, Sun, Nebula, the Shrike, all of these things. So I'm really excited to see how they intersect and see what happens with that.
Oh, 100% it will. 100%. It always has a way of, because there's going to be a character that's going to tie everything together. That's
sure
what I'm just
happen.
thinking.
Yeah.
It's going to be Will Wheaton.
Hey.
Now Wesley could come back because he's a traveler. So there's a possibility he could come back.
You never.
And then I know that there's
he's gonna backsmack his younger brother.
It'd be the best kept secret.
But see,
there's been no leaks of.
And then there's also the I don't know if it's true, but the possibility of Lore showing up.
Yeah.
That's like the bad data.
Okay.
Hey, anything could happen, right? Anything could happen.
But the thing about it is they're kind of like retconning a lot of stuff because it's like, things that happen. I mean, yes, you've got to, I'm not trying to make assumptions because of season 1 and 2, how things have progressed. So it's kind of like, like bringing Data back. It was, he was basically, his consciousness was in this computer because his, after Nemesis, that happened. So, and I'm just kind of wondering, since like now Picard has kind of like left his human casing and now he's in synthetic casing. So it's like, there's a lot of things that are it's just kind of, Picard's doing its own thing.
Yeah.
It's like taking its own story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try not to read too much into it because, like I said, of like the books I've read, especially like the Coda trilogy that I just finished, a while back, which that's interesting because that was talking about Beverly and Picard and Wesley as a traveler and Renee, which was their son. Little spoiler for that, but anyways. So that's why it's interesting to see, like, okay, if this guy here is Picard's son, I was like, all right, we're taking a totally different approach to this storyline.
Continuing the legacy, maybe passing the torch. Who knows?
Like, God, they've got to have Wesley back as a traveler. They've got to have him back.
See.
I mean, they already did it once. I don't see why you wouldn't do it. Like, you don't want to keep going back to the well, but at the same time, you really want to see what. You can't have the last name Crusher and not come into this whole entire thing that they're doing,
Right. Now when the character's
not that
available.
Will Wheaton's not available.
Right. When the character's available. And I mean they're pulling out all the stops for this season with Star Trek, So I think that we're gonna see it eventually, but I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, I'm under the impression it's only 8 more episodes, so let's see what they do.
8 more is
Oh,
great. I'm so glad you didn't say like 5 more episodes or 3 more episodes. I'd have been so upset because I'm
Yeah,
really
'cause
liking the show.
it's 10 episodes, so yeah, it's they're gonna come quick too, and that's the thing about it. I'm just like, oh,
Well, if it's
this
10,
is
that
what
means
I'm
there's only
like.
7 left, right?
No, this was 2.
No, this is 2.
This was 2?
Mhm.
I thought it was
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
3.
2.
So confused. All right. Well, cool. 8 more episodes.
This
I'm ready for it.
was episode 10 of the Bad Batch, so there's only 6 more of that.
That may have been what I was confused about, and it's actually what I was setting you up for. You knocked it out of the park for that segue. Let's do it. Bad Batch. Yeah, I'm gonna play that off. That's right. Bad Batch. What's up, man? What do y'all think this week? Is Bad Batch keeping y'all's interest? Is
It
it a
is.
background show?
I didn't mind the episode. It was very.
Mm-mm.
It was an open and shut episode. You
Mhm.
didn't have. Uh, the stakes were minimal. They set it up with the last episode, which fed into this one.
It's a direct continuation. Could have been
yeah.
a two-parter.
And in all reality, it shed a little light on like what was going on in the rest of the universe, and like that much I
Mhm.
really appreciate. I do like the fact that you have the correlation drawn from like how the Empire is treating the whole entire universe, or we'll call it solar system or whatever system that they're in,
Right.
to how it can be summarized by this one planet and what's going on this one planet. And so they used Gonki as a freaking air tag, and they're like, we're gonna find our ship by tracking our droid, which I was like, I'm pretty sure at this
Why
point in
not?
age, like everything would be trackable. So why not?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just track anything that's on there? You get this one kid that this whole thing's centered around, which here's the thing about animated shows, which I hate and love. I love that they are able to make them relatable to youth and to children, and they're able to bring them down onto a level that would bring new viewers in and younger kids in, because there's always a 4 to 10 demographic in there somewhere that would find this stuff really appreciating.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it could just as well be told through an adult in an animated story, and give you the same kind of feeling. So this kid stole their ship. No, go ahead. What you got?
No,
I was
I'm
gonna
just saying.
say. Oh,
I
good, sir.
might have to like kind of disagree with that, because it seems like to me with having the kids, seems like to me the stakes a little bit higher than I don't think it would have had the same like meaning if it were adults.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page with you on that to a certain extent. Like, I'm just thinking about it. I don't think that I would dislike Omega as much if it were live action. I don't know why.
Well, I mean,
I think
she
maybe
seems
because
like
it's
she's
animated, it's
kind of
easier to
finding
hate.
her own now, because she's
I got that in this episode. I felt a little bit of that in this episode too, with
A
her
little
trust
bit.
fall at the end.
A little
But
bit.
my main point in that was saying that they're able to create a vessel to tell a story
hmm
that could be told either through a child, and I'm not talking about Omega, I'm talking about Benny.
hmm
Whereas Benny could be a kid or an adult. And if he was an adult, there'd be probably a lot more desperation. But as a kid, there's a lot more.
It's a fair point. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, there's a lot more looseness to the consequences, I guess, of his behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole point is that there's a Ipsium mine on the planet that they were on last episode.
Mm-hmm.
The Ipsium mine that their ship got stolen and taken to belongs to this guy named Mako, which, wow, is about all I can use to describe him.
Ugh.
But you got a kid that steals a ship, and all the kid is trying to do is get more food.
He's trying to be the top earner.
Right.
Like
It's,
month.
it is the mafia. It is the standard grind mentality that he is trying to rise to the top of, and stealing a ship doesn't get him that. It's the most that anyone has brought in, and nothing got him that. So
The deck is stacked, man. That's what it is.
yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
But I mean, clearly the deck is stacked when you see what this character is actually eating and drinking. Because I can't tell you the last time I saw something so bad right off the bat. This Mako character in this episode sitting there trying to eat and talk to these droids. What am I watching right now? What is this? This is disgusting. And I've watched
He was a gluttonous
Jabba eat.
asshole. A
Yeah.
gluttonous,
And that's what
greedy
they were going
asshole.
for. They want you to feel that way when you see that character. So that's how you feel. They did a good
Because
job.
you got
And they
these
worked,
kids that are like
you know?
scrapping for everything because, especially, you see that scene where he's just like shoving his face and just acts like, prior to that, it's like, oh, we're just like scrapping and scraping. And here you are, you're just shoving your face. And then you bring 2 bowls of, I'm assuming it's soup. You give it
I
to
was
the
going
one
with
kid
gravy.
that's like a freaking earner.
Yeah.
And then the
Porridge.
other ones, they're sitting there fighting over it. But the thing about it, when you first see him, after Benny brings him this ship, and Benny's like, dude, I just want a water ration. Oh, yeah, let me get it for you. Here you go. Like, right then and there, I was like, this dude is an asshole.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, this kid's put in a position that he has to do what he's doing. It's
He's surviving.
It's
I mean,
like
that's all
Ross
he's ever
said, yeah,
done.
it's kind of survival. It's how far are you willing to go to enjoy life for what you would think is enjoying life? Do you not see anything else as possible? Is this the only option you have? And it feels like this kid's in this position where he is. He has no other choice but to work for this mob and to try to be the top earner and get paid and eat this way. And
his mentality kept
unfortunately,
him
it
going that
sucks because
direction.
it's like that for people in real life, which
Yeah.
Oh,
sucks.
yeah, absolutely.
It's terrible, but yeah, you're. The more and more I think about it, Ross, you're right. That story of Benny could have been told through a couple of different avenues, and it would have worked. But I do like that he sees, he figures it out. Like he figures out what the boss is doing. He understands this, and he kind of has the epiphany. I know that Amiga kind of pushes him a little bit, and like, don't you see what's going on type deal. But he finally comes to the realization, and I feel like the boss guy died pretty easily, or was defeated. I won't say died because it's Bad Batch, and you don't actually see anybody die. I feel like he was defeated pretty easily. Didn't he just kind of
Well,
slip
he
and
was like a
fall?
weak.
And
Ultimately, he was a weak character, anyways. It's
yeah,
like anybody with people in power in that situation. I mean, when it comes down tooth and nail, I mean, they're gonna fold like a lawn chair.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of fell off the edge though by himself, didn't he? From what I
Yeah, he
remember.
just swung because he was, I guess he had his little appendage or whatnot, and then he was like just swinging his cane, fell over and hit the side, and they're like, oh well,
Later, dude. Yeah.
my sucks to
But
be you.
You did this to yourself.
But yeah, you're right, Ross. I think the point of this episode, this is kind of a throwaway episode, except for the fact that it's kind of showing you the other side of the world, like what the rest of the galaxy's like with the Empire ruling, or the Empire coming into rule. It's the Wild West in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
And the strong will survive, and you've got to fight for what you got. And they're showing that in this episode. So you get to see a little bit of what the beginning of the Empire is like for a lot of people, because we talked about it before. From Coruscant, the closer you get to Coruscant, the nicer things are, and the further out you go, it's not what they describe it as. The closer in you get, it's a whole lot different.
But I will say this much: I did love what Rucker said when they were on that bridge. that Mako guy was like, "Well, if you shoot and you hit it, like Rucker's like, we don't miss."
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Look, mofo, we're good at our job.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was cool. This is an old techno union mine. It shows you like where their money comes from. So, you think about it like big picture wise, they got their money from doing certain things that probably were kind of shady. Now you have people creeping in on the territory after the war has ended, which all these things happen in realistic life.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like one of the most important things was the ending. It was part of the whole story, but it was the ending. You have Omega really trying to fit into the Bad Batch by being one of the people that helps to save and progress the lives of other people, and not just anyone in particular, but people who need to make a better life for themselves. She was trying to do that with Benny. Benny took a while to come around, which, as most good stories really do, but you had that moment to where she fully trusted in Hunter at the end. Like I said, I call it a trust fall when it was more of a trust leap. When she jumped off and was really like, my people have me. Like, we are all here together. And it
Got my
goes right
back.
back to a tribe comment, to where it's like, my tribe is strong and together we will prevail. And she did that. Hunters helped get her to that point. They got their shit. They did their thing. They're the Bad Batch yet again. Still minus an echo.
And that's a good way to wrap up this episode too, because like you said, there is that moment at the end where they send her on a mission by herself. Like they're like,
Yep.
you go handle this. And when I saw that, when I heard that as it's going on, I was like, oh, here we go. Here's gonna be the problem. And it wasn't.
But she didn't do it. Yeah. It wasn't
wasn't
her
It
fault.
wasn't a problem. So character growth halfway through the second season. Cool.
Hopefully.
I mean, hopefully we'll see what happens, but maybe
There's
we'll
hope.
learn to like this character. I don't know.
And see, I think that's another thing too that's kind of, which is, it's always with the Star Wars, is that theme of hope, and that's what Omega's trying to like really push. She's like, this isn't the only thing out there. There's more, because she's seen, now that she's actually gotten off Camino, which is pretty much wiped off, she's seeing there's more out there. So it's like, you're not really stuck in this one life that you think you are. So that was kind of like the last, like, little thought that I was kind of left with after, all this kind of transpired, because, and that's one thing that these kids didn't have. It was like, you're working for this one guy and that's the only thing that you ever know. You're, clawing and scraping and doing the best you can. And, you've got, the haves and the have-nots. And unfortunately, this Denny was like a have-not no matter how hard he tried. So now, the fact that, he was able to see what was actually going on. So, now everybody's kind of like on even footing, because they all share the profits. It's not just one where you're, you have your top echelon and everything just kind of falls down. So, but like I said, it's just like that whole, and I think that just struck me like the very end as they're flying. I was like, it's hope. I mean, that's the theme I'm seeing. And I'm thinking maybe that is like the whole thing with the Bad Batch. It's like, even though, you have all these, you're not like the perfect soldiers, you're not the perfect clones, you're not this, but there's always hope to be more than what you actually are.
Yep. Exactly. I think that there is
got deep on that one.
No, but you're dead right. Like every Star and Wars are both 4-letter words, and they both mean that, hope at the end of the day when it comes to a story.
There you go.
My thing that I have felt with Bad Batch is that it could be the transitional show that they use to end their storytelling in the prequel to OG storyline.
Okay. The
I
last
feel like,
bridge across.
yeah, I feel like it could be their way of separating from this timeline. And I feel like it could be in the manner of, you loved the Clone Wars, you loved the prequel trilogy, and you loved the original trilogy. And everything that happened between that needed to do something with the clones and the transition and like all of this stuff, because we got the whole thing is an Anakin story. We get a Kenobi story. Andor, I loved Andor personally. I thought that was a great series, and we're going to get another season of that. But it can only go so far before we step on toes. And I feel like the Ahsoka show is going to help transition the story past the prequel and sequel, or past the prequel and original trilogy's timeline. So I think that we're going to get to a point that advances that story. But we're not going to get the wrap up of this. And I feel like this may help us get that.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to tell, man, because there's certain things you can and can't do with it, because we already know we see Rex later on in the series. We already know we see Hera later on in the series, right? Like, these are characters that, while we're looking at now, it's hard to wrap up their story now, because we know that 15 years down the road, we see these characters again. Even if you don't realize that's the character you're seeing right there, that's who it is.
But it doesn't put a blunt stop on where we're at now. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't like you can skip ahead, which always helps in storytelling. Like where have you been? What are you up to? That's the device that we use to keep trying to figure out what happens next. And for me, I think that when I was told that Star Wars is going to focus on the period in between episode 3 and 4, I knew what to expect.
Right.
And when I said I knew what to expect, I meant that I kind of knew where their stories were going to go, not what they were specifically actually going to tell us.
Right.
So to get the Obi-Wan story, to get the Clone Wars season 7, the Andor, like all these things that we're getting, that's a focus.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you can still push those characters way beyond. Like Ahsoka is not going to be a focus between 3 and 4. It's going to probably tell us some flashback stuff and to bring some stuff up. But when you tell me that there's going to be a focus, I expect that. And I got that. So now I want to see what's going to happen next. They haven't actually come out and said what's going to be next, but I'm more than happy to believe and truly do think that it's going to be further on. And that's fine because I want to get away from it. I thought that I was ready to be done with it after Kenobi. And then they showed me Andor, and I'm like, maybe I'm not. Maybe I want to live in this for a minute.
Hook. That's right.
Yeah,
they set their hook that
brought
time.
me back in.
Mm-hmm.
But seriously, like I feel like Bad Batch could be like a real slow, stumbling moonwalk out of this phase, and maybe bring me into something else because we're going to be pushing on to Ahsoka. We're going to be pushing on to the Acolyte, which the Acolyte can go anywhere. Like,
yeah, I can't wait for that.
I'm interested to see what they're going to do. And, Boba Fett was a post story, Mandalorian comes out next week.
I know. It's going to be so
week,
great.
Baby. And it's a post story that's been going on simultaneously with the rest of these. And it confuses a lot of people because a lot of people are dumb. And it's hard to follow things if you don't spell it out for them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know what you know about the Star Wars universe, things can be great moving forward always. You're not always going to get gems, clearly, but things can be great moving forward.
I agree, man. And the thing is, even things aren't great moving forward. Like there's so much Star Wars right now. It's just fantastic. Anyway, I was asking you for a recommendation for a book the other day, which by the way, I started that Expanse series. 5 chapters into the first book. Really, really good stuff so far. And I was looking through my library and I realized that I have Shadow of the Sith and I haven't even, I bought it. I pre-ordered that one and then forgot that I forgot.
Read it?
I forgot when it came out. I haven't even read it yet. So I've got another one to
Listen
read.
to it.
So, and by the way, anybody on Audible, 1984 is free on Audible right now. You can just download that one for free. Go ahead and add that to the library if you got Audible. So, but yeah, there's so much Star Wars out there. I don't know where they're going in the future, but I feel like you could forever tell stories in this universe and be okay because they have so many different places to go.
For the next week, I swear to God, I'm gonna listen to like the Mandalorian soundtrack. Just all that Ludwig Van Goranson
stuff,
just bring it in. Just get me in the mood. I've contemplated with rewatching it, but I'm not gonna have the time. So I may try to hit some highlights. I'm definitely gonna watch some recaps on YouTube. So
I'm sure you could probably watch an hour and a half recap on YouTube and watch basically see all the key points in Mandalorian for the first 2 seasons.
And Boba Fett 2.5 Mandalorian.
Yeah, Mandalorian 2.0 or 2.5. Yep. Well, all right. Well, let's move on then. Unless y'all have anything else you want to say about Star Wars.
Speaking of Pedro Pascal.
Speaking of, yes. Another great transition right there. Last of Us. Yeah. Once again, Sarah, I'd love to hear your opinion because this is a show now going in you weren't super excited for, but I think you've changed your opinion on it now. This week's episode, for me at least, was kind of like tearjerker at some points. Like there was some serious acting going on in this week's episode.
Going into this show is like going through the roof. Because I'm like, I'm sitting on the couch watching this, and Brian's over there. I'm like, dude, what? I'm like, am I about to get a jump scare? Because I'm like, I can't, jump scares. I'm like, it's like something's gonna. It's just like that. It's getting more suspenseful because now it's like you're going more into, like situations and things, you're just like, okay, when's the other shoe gonna
Survival.
drop?
Right.
Because I'm just like, you kind of
We haven't really had zombies much in this series, so like I'm waiting for the moment where there's like the big zombie fight where
you mean the
nobody's
ones
gonna
crawling
make
out of the
it.
ground out of the one episode wasn't enough for you?
Well, I mean, we had one big spot of it, but we haven't had a lot.
I
A
mean,
lot of it's been
I'm good for
non-zombie
like
stuff.
probably another episode.
Yeah.
Um,
White Chocolate Espresso 6, can you name an episode that's not a tearjerker? That's a good point.
no doubt, dude. I
That
mean,
is a good
that's a
point.
good point because
Yeah.
it's like,
What was episode 1 called?
No, even episode 1, you see your daughter
I'm
die.
not.
And at that point, you're like, oh.
No, they're all good.
Yeah.
Look, my beef with this show is that there are no sustainable characters thus far. And when I say sustainable characters, what I really mean is like, that
one
they've been looking for
episode done.
Tommy. Yeah, like it is
One and
literally
done.
instead of villain of the week, it is character of the week.
Well, you got to remember, this is a video game.
I'm not
It's just
meaning
in a
that in
video
bad
game,
way.
you're going to see these characters in a stage and then go on.
That's what I'm saying. I don't mean it in a bad way. And I'm not saying that all I'm saying is that it lends itself to difficult storytelling and difficult writing. And I'm interested to see how this is going to continue to progress, because if there are going to be multiple seasons of the show, I need to know how we're going to keep doing this with making me feel things for people other than Ellie and Joel and or Tommy. But I have, like, as much as I wanted to see that Kathleen character, because I loved her in other shows that I've watched, I wanted to see her do something. I love the fact that she had the right-hand man. I could have dealt easily with 4 to 5 episodes of those two being protagonists to Joel and Ellie, or their plight, or whatever the issue may be. You have Frank and Bill, right? The two of them got 1 episode. I'm not saying that they deserved more. I'm just saying that
I just wish Bill was more. And Brian kind of said this too. He's like, I wish Bill was like more, instead of ending that episode, it's like, could you not bring him on? I mean,
yeah, like you could have done more
because
with
I just
it.
felt like he had more to give to it, honestly.
In pieces there. Yeah.
Well,
you didn't need a whole entire episode dedicated to it.
Right.
You could have later on, but
well, my question is, does anybody know how far into the game we are at this point into the show? Because I don't know, like, is this a slow walk through the game? Are we in like the first 2 levels right now?
I'll have to ask Brian, because he's actually playing it right now. So he was, I can't remember if it was a couple of nights ago. He was actually to the, I guess the part where you saw Henry and Sam, because he was like, Sarah, look at this, and then you saw him. I'm like, so I don't know anything past that.
Okay. Yeah, because that's what I'm kind of wondering is, you're right, Ross. How far can they pull this story out? Like, is there a 2-season finality to it? Is it going to end this season? Are they telling one story, or are they building something they can continue to tell for a while? If they're only like, okay, if the gameplay is 23 hours of gameplay, are they 2 hours into it?
And that tells you, okay, here's the thing. I talked to someone today about watching the Halo series, okay? They were like, well, when's the second season of Halo coming out? Like, is there a second season of Halo? And I'm like, yeah, they're making a second season. And they're like, man, I love the first season. I'm like, did you play the game? Like, no. Like, I just love the story.
Well, it wasn't
like,
really gameplay type thing,
right?
Though.
And that's a point where I'm going to make with this is like that person loved the story. They watched the show, they loved the story, and they knew of the game. They knew people who played the game, but it wasn't a big thing for them. It was a real odd conversation with someone that I've never really had a conversation before with. And so when we were talking about it, it reached a point where, like, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, where's the crux in all of this? Like, where do we reach that point in the road to where is The Last of Us trying to get all of their story in and out of season 1 and then progress from there with a story that they can just keep telling? Because maybe the ending may not be the same as the video games.
Okay.
But when you watch a show like Halo has story properties that are necessary for players of the game. But really, if you just told a story, it could go on and on and on. Like where would it stop if you just let it continue to breathe and play, you know? And so with The Last of Us not really having sustainable characters for me by that phrase, what I mean really is that are they just trying to like bring all of this emotional impact in, let you sit with it for one episode and press on? Because if so, then like where does that put us in the end? Like if
Right.
do they have a 5-season plan that is just like biblical? Like, I mean,
I don't know.
I hope so. Better than like being like fall flat on its face, but
Yeah. Well, Kevin in the chat room says he knows how it ends. That's all I know. So I'm assuming he's probably played the game or gotten through it. And he says there is a part 1 and a part 2. So Kevin, I'm assuming you've played the game. Can you let us know
it
how
is next
far
month.
into this game they are right now, at least the first game series? And I also wanted to point out too, like the difference in Halo and Last of Us. You're talking about 2 different games.
Oh, I know.
Like for me, honestly, most people
Fair
that play
points.
Halo that I know maybe played the campaign series, but are playing it for multiplayer, which is mainly the reason I played it. You don't play a game like Last of Us for multiplayer. You play it to play the storyline, and you figure out the
It's like an
storyline. It's a good
RPG
story to
kinda.
be told. Yeah, yeah. So I feel like you have to cater to different things. When you go into Halo, you have certain points you have to hit. The suit has to look good. They have to have the Master Chief. You have to have certain things you hit for the fans. But the story is more fluid. You have background story that is the base of the universe, but you don't necessarily have rules you have to follow. Whereas I feel like in The Last of Us, you have a strict story you're following. And as far as I understand it, they're doing as good as they can and a damn good job of paying homage to the actual game. So,
and I know it's apples and oranges. Like I understand that. Like I know that I can't compare the two. All I'm saying is that at the end of the day, how can I, since there isn't a whole lot to go off of yet, compare it to a whole lot more? And what am I looking for as far as like words to use to try to push it forward? So
yeah. Kev says he heard it's not going to be past the games. So I'm assuming games 1 and 2, Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2. And he says he has other people that have played it and they ruined it for him. He doesn't have a PlayStation. You should get one because it's better. And don't ruin it for us because I kind of want to go in as a surprise. So, yeah. So other things about this episode. What do we think? His brother. Like we get to be Tommy or see Tommy again.
actually, before that point, the dog sniff check. Like,
yeah,
to see him freak out, like.
Well, and speaking of, is he having heart problems? Is that what we're seeing? Is that he's having like
panic attack? Like,
yeah, okay.
No, I would say panic, but what do you call? It's like it's a panic attack brought on by depression. Like like it's depressive thoughts and anxiety. Like it's like an anxiety attack.
It's straight up like an anxiety panic attack. It's like where it's just you just get so overwhelmed and it just consumes you. And it's number one, because you find out more, he doesn't have basically the hearing in the one ear, so it's like you got this like because he's to the point. He's like, I'm your protector, but I don't know if I can protect you anymore. And you're starting to get that feeling before you hear that entire epilogue, shall we say? Because I mean, you don't really see a whole lot of emotion from him, up until pretty much this point. But
oh, he had no emotion for those people that he was holding up at the very beginning of the show.
No, and that's what I'm saying. It's like it's changing quite a bit. It's quite.
Yeah,
it's changing quite a bit. So I mean, it's just and that was my first thing too. I was like, oh my god, is this dude having like heart problems? Then I'm like, oh, he's just so like, just like frozen. And it's just like
Well, there was some really good acting by both Ellie and Joel in this episode. That like I said, it's almost kind of a tearjerker. A lot of different moments. You get the moment with Joel and his brother, and then Joel telling his brother about Ellie being immune. And then you get this moment of, where Ellie's overheard the conversation, but it's kind of overhearing the parts of it that make it like the news would put out, just what they want you to hear to make it sound bad type thing. And you see that they're making this connection with Joel and Ellie as like a son and daughter type thing. I mean, you're right. He's coping with the fact that he's not as spry as he used to be. The fact that in his mind, he's failed everybody who's ever trusted him with Sarah, his daughter, and Tess, and everybody else. So it's like I get kind of where he's coming from. It's a very depressive way to look at things, but it's very, very realistic in this kind of situation. And the acting job between these characters in this episode, like I said, there were moments where I was like, oh my gosh, like I gotta turn the fan on. I'm starting to sweat a little bit. I kind of want to like
Dude,
kind of want to
that
cry a
moment
little
when
bit.
he
It was
had
crazy. Yeah.
that moment
Like,
when he was she was talking about his daughter, and he's like, "Don't
mm-hmm.
go there." I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay." I mean, that was a big turning point too, because obviously that was like a traumatic moment for him. Losing that, and now here you have this other kid, which in essence is almost like his daughter as well. And it's like he's thinking, I can't go through that shit again. I cannot go through that shit again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you watch the progression of him in this show. Like he loses his daughter, which someone that I don't know the history of him and the daughter's mother, but he had her up until the ripe age of teenage. Like there's plenty of time. There was plenty of time for him to actually get a handle on how kids can act and react.
Mm-hmm.
But then your next bout with him is faced with dumping kids into a fire that were infected. Like he had like lost that emotion and was just like to a point to where like he was pushing on to continue to live, and like he was dead and empty inside. And like Tess was clearly a girlfriend of his that he had in that dead and empty inside moment. She wasn't the kind of girl that you would date whenever you were happy and thriving. She was the kind of girl that you date for like when you're in survival mode in life, and like things don't matter. Like there was a thing there that was completely apparent, right?
Right.
And so then you turn around, and now you're being challenged by not only like adults, you're being challenged by a teenager. And you're being challenged by a teenager about your teenager and the relationship that you had with your kid. And that changes the tables drastically. I think that it is, number one, I thought that the moment that he had with his brother and him spilling the beans on like his whole way that he's viewing life was just, I thought that was the impactful moment for me. Because I was
you've
like,
never really seen him vulnerable before.
Right. And when you can bring that forward to another person, not to mention, when it's someone very, very close to you, that means something to him, to Joel. And then for Ellie to be smart enough to pick up on like all these kids in this theater don't know what's going on. They don't care because they're being raised in this, special bubble. She leaves and goes and listens to that whole entire thing. It becomes, that lights up the next fire between her and Joel. But I think that, number one, I think that the whole town of Jackson was really cool to see how it could work if people work together, and not in a bad way that you get in like Walking Dead.
Communism works on small scales. Yeah.
Because it's a commune.
It's a commune. Like I said, on very small scales, communism works. Yes.
It works on many different scales, but we don't give it the honest chance. I think that there is something to be said that you don't get you had Kansas City and then you had Jackson. And I think that those two things on the scale really bring a difference. You had Jackson, and it felt like, you had hatred and things that needed to be paid for. But Jackson was just thriving in its small little town. Kansas City was falling apart. And
well, it shows what happens when you have certain people, because Kansas City was basically ruled by Kathleen. So it's like almost you have like that dictatorship, shall we say, versus where, okay, we're all living together in our commune. Everybody has the same goal. But then again, we don't have, people giving other people up for, certain things. So it's like a different mindset in KC versus
Y'all got any cocaine?
But it was really interesting too, because Tommy's wife, kind of like the way she took Ellie under her wing, and then of course then you find out she's pregnant. Number one, I'm thinking that off the top of my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, I couldn't imagine having a pregnancy and not really having like the medical care that
right.
Could you have a reveal party? It's a fungus.
Right.
Oh God. Well, see, in my case, I probably wouldn't have made it, but anyways, it's just like, and some of the things, because she kind of gave Ellie that, like, she understood what she needed. It's like she needed new clothes. She needed, a new coat. She needed
to clean
feminine
things up.
items, because I had to explain what that was. Brian's like, what the heck? Dude, don't even ask. Don't ask.
Look, what it does is
Don't. It's a cup. Let's just leave it like that.
Right.
So,
We'll leave it at
it's
that.
just little things like that, because, in previous episodes you saw with the box of supplies, shall we say, and then now, you're seeing this, just like, and you forget that she's a kid, but she's soon to be a young woman. So, I mean, it's,
no one's ushering her in properly into all
yeah,
these
I mean, it's like,
experiences.
and, you hear about, with her growing up, and, the way she grew up, and, being secluded, and, now she's meeting these kids in Jackson, and, they're actually going to school. They're, actually have a society to grow up in, whereas she was just like, it was just an absolute,
and
she was sheltered.
You bring up a good point too, because on their journey to Jackson, Joel's actually opening up and telling her all these things. No. Is that's on the back end, right? That's on their journey to.
Yeah, that's when they're going to.
That's when he's new boot
university.
goofing, and he's on his way to.
I'll say it's two times. They kind of open up to each other on the way there and on the way out a little bit.
Yeah.
You can see a trust building between the two.
Yeah, on the way out, he's telling her that he was a contractor in football. Yeah, that's right. My bad. I got that mixed up. But
I loved it when he was telling her about football.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what you're talking about. It's
like, yep, he's explaining it right.
So you go this far, it's a need to set it down. I was like, oh, that conversation.
Well,
they need a pencil. Hand me a pencil. Shit, no one makes pencils anymore. All right, hold on. There's a bunch of snow. We're gonna do this.
That's right. Well, they make it a point in this episode to point out, Joel, Tommy's wife, or partner, says to her, she's like, you can only be betrayed by the ones you trust.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this episode is almost just about Joel and Ellie building trust with each other. Mm-hmm. They've had the fight, the father's, daughter fight right now. They both come to a realization of what's going on. Now I think they're both focused on the goal of moving forward. They both understand a little more seriously now exactly what's at stake and what they've got to do to accomplish this goal. And I love the development between those two in this episode because, I mean, it was to a point where Joel's not going to turn her over to Tommy and not go. And the next morning you wake up and he's already gotten the horse ready and he's ready to go. And it's like, okay, cool. They both accepted their role in this.
He did bring it up as a matter of choice. And I do appreciate that fact.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't like, look, I did wrong. I'm going to step up. He was like, look, here's the deal. I screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
You are smart enough to figure out whether or not if my screw up is big or small enough to you to make the decision. And so I do think that was a very, it was just a very smart decision because, I mean, here's the thing, like when you introduce decisions to kids, choice to kids, like it gives them that aspect of like feeling older than they are.
Being involved, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really smart. And I thought that was really cool that they did that.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of brings us to the end of this episode now, and I guess they're on their way. Oh yes, they're on their way. They go to the city with the monkeys, which is crazy because he's like, "It's the first time you ever seen a monkey." I'm like, "Of course, it's the first time she's ever seen a monkey." What kind of a question is that? Of course, it's the first time she's ever seen a monkey. It's probably the first time you've ever seen a monkey. How many people have really seen a monkey in their lives?
No,
other like in a zoo or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like...
but it does bring you to the point where they're fighting. They get to the Raiders. They're in this city. I kind of wonder, like, okay, they're in this building and they see these Raiders like going through the city. Why wouldn't you just stay there? Like, do you think they're going to come up there and sweep every building? And if they do, wouldn't you kind of have the drop on them? I just feel like staying there until they left would have been the best idea, but it doesn't make for good television. So,
well, my question would be, what forced the Fireflies out? And so when you ask that question, it begs the next question of, if you felt like you had to leave to go to Salt Lake, right? What was Salt Lake the next
That's
destination?
yeah,
they
something
were
like
going
that. That's
to?
where all the arrows were pointing. Yeah,
And
for one
so
city, I can't remember what it was.
why, right? Like what was the decision making? I feel like that's the. I don't think they played that up enough to be the not cliffhanger, but like the next milestone they needed to reach storytelling wise.
Well, the one thing that
If
kind of got me was like if you saw on the wall, you saw the vines, and I'm like, is there gonna be a clicker? Is there gonna be a clicker? Because that's what I was waiting for.
yeah.
I was waiting for a clicker. So that's when you
Yeah.
heard the
The monkeys.
rumblings up there. I'm thinking,
Mhm.
oh my god, I can't with this right now.
let's go towards the sounds, that's always a good idea.
Well, so okay, so they anyway, like I said, I think they should have stayed in the building, but they go down there and they get caught by the raiders, and Joel kills one
Hey,
of
did
them.
you ride? I mean, what if
Yeah.
they found the horse?
I've been hoofing it for a while. You know, I can Tommy Jerry it for a little longer if I need to. If it means staying
All the
alive.
shit was on that horse.
But well, I mean,
No,
but okay,
that
so
that is true, but
yeah, that's true. I guess they did have all the supply, but they've already ditched the truck that had a ton of supplies. So I mean, they're used to ditching supplies. But either way, they leave here. Joel kills the one, but he gets stabbed.
With a freaking end of a baseball bat too.
Yeah, that's a
what
shiv if
that
I've ever
was?
seen one. That's what it looked
Yes,
like.
that's
Like
exactly
a
what it
baseball
was.
bat
The
made
one
into a
guy had the
shiv.
baseball bat, and he swung it because when she pulled it out, you
He
could
broke
see
it
like
against the tree and then stabbed him.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
That makes more sense. Yeah, I guess he did swing a bat right whenever we got.
Hey, because that was the end of that was a broken baseball bat.
No. So now we're at the point where Ellie and him are trying to get away, and he's bleeding, probably fatally
Profusely.
bleeding. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the story ends with him laying in the snow and her basically begging him to stay alive. Which I love you, Ellie, but that's not going to work. It doesn't matter how much you beg; he's not going to stay alive if you beg for it. So. I'm interested to see where this story goes, how he gets saved, because I know he's going to. There's no way they continue the story without Pedro Pascal. And I'm pretty sure in the game, he doesn't die 2 chapters in. So we're going to see what happens. But it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. Because now our heroes are left in the middle of nowhere, in the snow, bleeding to death, with no supplies. Am I
They're
correct?
always in these like Kobayashi Maru type situations where you're
No
like,
win.
how in the
Right.
hell are you going to get out of this?
Yeah.
It's life, right?
For them, it
it's just
is.
called-
I guess.
I guess life is a short version of Kobayashi Maru.
But I
I
mean,
mean,
if
let's
you
be
think
real.
about
You
it,
could have
it's
just
like
stayed
you're
in the
always
city.
in a no-win situation. It's like, okay, here you are in the middle of nowhere. You got the horse over there, just chilling, like. Because I'm thinking, what are you gonna feed the horse? What do you just hope you can just like graze, let it graze? I'm like, I don't know. I think about shit like that. But anyways, I mean, and you're like, both of you are riding on this horse. I'm
Right.
thinking, what is poor horse? But
oh, good. Sorry.
but that's what I'm saying. And then shit happens where somebody gets shot, somebody gets stabbed, or you end up wrecking something where you don't have any form of transportation other than your feet. And you're in the absolute middle of nowhere because you've gone. They got to Jackson, so all right, mission accomplished. You found Tommy. Okay, cool. Then I was like, all right, well, we're gonna go because the whole point was to go see these fireflies. You get to the university, they're gone. So then you're like, well, damn, we just come all the way across the country and there ain't shit here.
Yep.
Now I kind of find out you've got to go because everybody's telling you like you go across the river, it's gonna be bad. It's nothing's good across the river. And it's like, okay, well, it's kind of like okay, we got to this level now. All right, well, what's the next level? And that's how I'm kind of feeling right now.
Yeah. I mean, this show's gotten you to a point where you're wondering where the characters go from here. But I just wonder, like, in real life, in all actuality, if this is the case where you found somebody who's immune to the system, you're not sending her out with 2 people to go across the country.
But I don't think anybody believes them because it's like you saw Tommy's response or reaction is like, she got bit. What?
Well, Tommy believed him. I mean,
yeah, but it kind of you saw the look on his face. He did not.
Right.
It took a little bit of convincing.
And I can imagine to be
that's
pretty
your own brother,
unbelievable.
and you're talking about disbelief. I mean, like
Yeah.
that's. I don't want to say like that's your blood and like that kind of shit, but I mean, like when someone that close to you says some shit like that, and you're like, that doesn't exist. It's like trying to say like you discovered teleportation.
Right. I figured out time travel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get that.
It's amazing.
But, well, I mean, it leaves us in a very crazy spot going into the next episode. kind of a cliffhanger at the end of this one. You don't know if Joel's going to live or not, which, spoilers, he's going to live. Don't know how yet, but he's going to. Even
He'll
though
survive somehow.
I'm
Something
pretty
just happened.
sure
He'll
you get
survive.
stabbed in the
He
gut like
uses
that.
that Mandalorian bio spray.
There you go.
It's fine.
I'm pretty sure you
shit!
get
I'm
stabbed in
mixing
the gut
genres
like
again.
that. You're good. Dude, it takes me out of it so much, man. That voice all the time. I hear that voice. I'm like, damn it, Mandalorian.
I loved when he described the Mandalorian voice as the bedroom voice, and now I can't see it as anything else. And
Right.
now I swear to
Yeah.
God, I'm like, oh,
Yep.
Mandalorian talk is dirty talk. I got
Yeah.
you.
Well,
You're
you see, that's so
speaking
funny
my
because
language now.
before I got on here, actually, we had A Star Is Born, with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. That was actually playing before I got. And so I'm hearing Bradley Cooper speak, and I'm like, that's Rocket. That's Rocket, because that's the voice he's using. It's like that gravelly, just it doesn't have the inflection that Rocket normally has, like a smart ass thing. But I'm like, okay,
You know what's so
I know
funny?
that's you, but I'm hearing Rocket. So
You know
that's
what's
how
so
it is
funny?
with.
Of all the characters that are voiceovers, I cannot see Bradley Cooper at all when I hear Rocket.
Really?
I just don't. Yeah,
Well,
I
now
really
I see
can't.
Bradley Cooper,
I love
and
Bradley
all I
Cooper.
can hear is
Yeah,
Rocket.
I've seen him in a ton of movies. I love the actor. I just when I hear Rocket, I know it's Bradley Cooper. I just don't see it.
You want me to fix that for you?
No.
You sure?
No,
Because I
I'm cool
totally
with Rocket
can't.
having his own voice. No, it's cool.
Okay.
It's
All
cool.
right. Your choice, man.
All right, well, that's it, y'all. We wrapped everything up. All 3 shows. No big news this week. We got a guest next week, continuation of shows, and Mandalorian comes out next week. So a whole new show next week. A lot of stuff to talk
next
about.
week?
We do.
Who's
Jeff
coming
Haas.
on next week?
Jeff,
really?
the actual publisher who gives us all the different people who come on our show for
The
their guest
planner
spots.
to the planner.
The planner, that's right. The Watcher is coming on next week to talk to us about his stuff and everything else he does. So it'll be a fun show. We've got Mandalorian starting up, season 3, more Picard, more Bad Batch, more Last of Us, all kinds of good stuff. And I'm sure there's going to be some kind of news between now and then that pops up. Let's see what happens. But until then, Sarah, where can they find you at?
You can find me on the Twitter every now and again. And even maybe you can find me on TikTok too. Who knows? I'm everywhere.
I actually don't do much TikTok, but I do flip through it. And I guess because you're in my contacts, I do see your TikToks all the time. And I saw the one the other day of your dogs with Harry Potter. Like, what house are you
9
in?
times out of 10, any TikTok I do is going to have something to do with my animals, because I did one for my last surviving black cat, Simon. There's like been this one. It's like, pet me. It's like, I want to be petted. I want to be petted.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way he is. He'll come up to you, headbutt you, and all this kind of stuff. And I've been kind of like holding on to like some of these filters, so it was really fun. But the one thing that's really fun talking about TikTok, now this is a totally weird squirrel. They have a teen filter that's like really popular with like the older.
Oh
folks.
no! Oh yes, I know. Me and Ashley discovered that. Ashley discovered
that. But the thing about it is, okay, I did that filter, and Claire was right beside me, and she and I looked so much alike. It was insane. It was insane.
Yeah. Because
basically she has Brian's eyes. So it was just like a combination. It's like the faces looked almost the same. It was nuts. She even looked at it and she's like,
If you have facial hair or even a glorious beard like I do, then that teen filter doesn't work very great, because my wife had it and she was like, oh, let's see. And then we put it on the dog, and then she put it on me. So yeah, it doesn't work with a beard. Let's put it that way. It looks really, really strange. But
I was contemplating shaving off a little bit of the beard. So maybe I'll try this filter thing that you guys are talking about. You kids are talking about.
Well, you need to get on the TikTok, because on my For You page, there's been like a ton of Pedro Pascal. I have to send you the one I found today. I was like, oh my God, it was hilarious.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff on TikTok for sure.
But yeah, that's like it's like, Brian and I, our For You pages are so similar. We end up sending each other like the same thing. He's like, oh yeah, I saw that. I'm like, yeah, dude, that was on my page like the other day. So yeah.
I will warn people about TikTok. When you get on TikTok and you see things that are stories, political stuff, this and that, blah, blah, if you watch the TikTok, go look up the whole video, because what they're going to do is they're going to cut just a little bitty part of it out.
Yeah.
Just a little bitty part. And some of the stuff makes sense. Like, you can go check and okay, that's legit. But majority of the time, it's just a little bitty part cut out.
Well, my For You
fit
page
their narrative,
it's animals, like animal stories. It's always story times. It's like stylists with like their Karen stories. shit like that. So I mean, it's just like, okay, whatever. I have like the craziest shit.
Fun stuff.
But yeah,
Go follow her. Check it out. Seriously. Put some good stuff out there. Yeah.
if you want to meet my dogs, that's the best way to do it.
There you
So,
go. There you go. Well, you can find me at the Bat Daddy 52 on Twitter is my personal handle. Check out at GCS Podcast 1 is the show handle. Live every Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. Ross, where can they find you at?
Nowhere. I don't do social media.
So
Sorry.
just hit me up and I'll give you his number. So
There you
we're
go.
good to go. Yeah.
Call me.
There you go. Well, let's go ahead and get out of here. And I guess until next week, y'all, just keep